Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. I'm back here today with Jack on the podcast. For those who haven't met or seen myself before, I'm Joey. I'm paid media director at The Social Shepherd.
Cool. And I'm Jack, one of the co-founders of The Social Shepherd as well.
Cool. So I think we're going to have a little chat about the future of
Paid social.
Paid social. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think certainly there's, things have changed massively over the last few years, even since I've been working in the industry, really over the last four or 5 years, just the direction that things have gone has been a massive change. And it's going to be really interesting to see where it kind of develops, I guess, over the next couple of years and forward from that. There's been lots of changes around, AI, around tracking, around, data privacy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess that's some of the stuff that we'll delve into today.
Definitely. I hope we can have some good answers being our paid media director as well. There's big shoulders to give some answers on. So I guess the first one I wanted to talk to you about is automation, AI. Is it going to take your job in paid media?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this time 12 months, I probably won't have a job with the rate that things are going. Well, it's all the news coming out about ChatGPT at the moment, and all of the things that it's able to do, which, is very interesting. But I think at some point, I don't think it's where it needs to be to fully take over what we're doing within our roles at the moment, certainly. That you're always going to need some level of human interaction there, I feel. There'll be a level of emotion in there that we need to kind of convey with certainly all of the ads that we're pushing out and the messaging that we're pushing out for brands from that side of things. But moving away from ChatGPT, that's obviously one discussion area. I think, the automation side of things has really been kicking off over the last couple of years, mainly over the last year. We've seen Performance Max come out on the Google side, which is, really, really very much a fully automated ad campaign type. But now on the Meta side of things, we've got, the likes of Advantage Plus coming out, which, is kind of Meta's version of Performance Max in the sense of, fully automating your targeting, and essentially you're just letting Meta go and kind of do its thing, really. It's quite an interesting move forward. I think certainly we've been doing quite a lot of testing with the campaign type itself. And certainly the Advantage Plus shopping campaigns seem to be hugely powerful. We saw with
what have we
Performance
seen
Max.
so far with Advantage Plus versus the campaign structure that we had before?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I know we've been kind of, certainly from like a product basis, putting such an onus on our all of funnel, dynamic ads for broad audiences, and kind of really pushing that as a strong last click revenue driver for Meta. But I think certainly what we've seen since introducing the, Advantage Plus is it kind of, because you can't exclude any audiences, really you're kind of, it kind of really does fill that all of funnel role that we kind of had before. I think certainly when we run dynamic ads for broad audiences, we're not leaving it completely open. We're still kind of excluding users that kind of reach that view content stage within their user journey, just so there's no crossover between your all of funnel targeting and then your dynamic retargeting side of things too. But yeah, it's just getting more and more automated. And I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier, Jack, when we were talking about this, was around kind of how interest audiences seem to be vanishing day by day.
Yeah, they keep removing them, don't they, I guess. Super interesting. I think a lot of these automation bits have been sort of teased, and it's very like small, slight changes. But I think when we look on the macro level across the next 3-5 years, probably there's going to be a whole different world to what it is today. But those sort of small changes happened over time, accumulate into this bigger piece of that automation on page.
I do wonder actually whether Meta, in a few years' time, are just going to kind of almost turn around and be like, you have 3 audiences to choose from, and you kind of just have to go out with those. I'm really intrigued to see how it gets tackled further down the line, and I think naturally, with the sunsetting of cookies and the way that cookies drive a certain amount of data collection at the moment.
Yeah.
How powerful that kind of data gathering is going to be. I think for all of those interested audiences and the way that Meta kind of pull them up for us to target.
I think one of the reasons though that this automation piece has been brought in is because Google, Facebook, all these ad platforms want to make it as easy as possible for business owners to be able to just get started on the platform and ultimately start spending and seeing results.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, it's basically all about the money in those, platforms' eyes. So I think that's probably why, the purpose in their sense is to help people get on the platform, make it as easy as possible, don't make it overcomplicated. But like you said, there becomes a point where you still do need like expertise on those accounts. There's only so much you can do with, PMAX. There's other areas that, they're introducing, and even on Facebook side where there is still some level of control and expertise that's needed.
Well, it comes to the strategy side of things as well.
Yeah.
These automated, campaign types, they're easy to set up in terms of what you do, but certainly looking at the data analysis that comes out the back end of it and kind of the decisions that still need to be made from that side of things. Certainly, when we're reporting back to clients, that still needs to be a human interaction from that side of things, and how you read the data and then how you develop that to go forward to then take, the next step. How do you make that better? I think at the moment, there's no tool to be able to do that. You get the data, and then it's then your job to go away and find what the next, what is the next best step to take. So yeah, I think that's where the human interaction is always going to lie with it. And well, like we've mentioned before as well, around creative, certainly on the meta side of things, you're always going to need some level of human interaction when developing a creative strategy and understanding what needs to go into it from an emotional and messaging perspective, to really, delve into the target audience that you're trying to hit.
Yeah. Then with PMAX, I know what we've seen versus sort of your smart shopping before, we've seen that sort of like, I know they say it's on average sort of a 13% uplift, or that's certainly the figure they came out with sort of in the beginning stages. Have we seen a similar uplift from Advantage Plus across our accounts, both on like a last click basis and
Yeah, I think we're still in the early stages of testing at the moment, and I think the potential concern as we do more testing is the cannibalization of other campaigns where we've got no control over the targeting that we've got. That we've certainly seen performance of kind of the rest of our funnel structure drop when we've launched Advantage Plus, in the sense that Advantage Plus is cannibalizing those conversions that we would have got. I think further analysis needs to be done in terms of how much uplift and how much cannibalization is being done there. But certainly in ad accounts where there hasn't been necessarily a strong full funnel structure in there, and we've put Advantage Plus within the ad campaign type, within the ad account, it's giving huge amounts of uplift in terms of last click revenue, but also when we're looking at attribution windows within Meta itself, the CPAs are so much cheaper than what we've got with any kind of manual targeting that we're doing from that side of things.
And then, guess going back to the AI topic, like creative and copy, how are we seeing this within sort of the agency? Do you think, I know we're obviously not doing anything on it yet, but do we ever see that being a part of that like creative strategy where we're telling ChatGPT or any of these tools, like, we will create a piece of creative using this as a thought starter that has this call to action? Do we think that's going to become a thing, or on the creative side?
I want to say no, because I don't want to lose my job. But with the development of ChatGPT over the even the short time that it's kind of been within the landscape, I'm intrigued to see how much further it's going to go. I think it's going to have a place within our job roles, certainly within the future. But I guess it just depends how it continues to develop, really, and the power that it can continue to drive. But again, it's always relaying back to the point we still need that human interaction in there.
I agree. I have to agree there. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating, the sort of developments and somewhere that will, I guess, constantly evolve in our discussions, both on the podcast and internally as well. And then TikTok. Big one that is on everyone's lips at the moment. Obviously, we're hearing news that it's being banned from government phones in the UK. It's also, the American government are threatening that it's going to be banned if they don't sell it off to an American company. But saying that, if it's still around, we're still using it. Do we see it taking over from the likes of Meta and Google in terms of, I guess, media spend and, general budgets? How do you see that?
Well, I think the interesting thing with TikTok is it's where it kind of sits in terms of its purpose is a bit weird in comparison to what we've seen typically from, the Meta side of things and from the Google side of things. Naturally, Meta is very, certainly from an advertising perspective is very disruptive when you're putting it out there. You've got a feed that you're getting served, relevant bits of content to, whoever you're following, your friends on Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. For then a random ad to appear on there is, disruptive at that point. And I think you've got to get a certain level of user engagement off the back end of that. But it's very easy to get people off of Meta and actually onto a website and trying to get a user to try and convert off the back end of it. Certainly much easier than it is on TikTok because it's so much of an entertainment platform. The want and need for a user there is to continue to keep scrolling. And it's very much more difficult to be disruptive on TikTok because a lot of the content on there is designed for you to stay on TikTok, whereas trying to get someone to leave the platform is, a very difficult task to be able to do. So I think where it sits within the funnel and its purpose is a bit of an interesting place. I don't think, naturally it's ever really going to take over, certainly from a paid perspective anyway, from the purpose that Meta has, because it still has that conversion, opportunity to be able to drive users to a website to try and get them to convert. When you compare that with Google, again, it's kind of a similar suit. We know that TikTok's getting, paid search ads, which is going to be really interesting. And we know that Gen Z are using TikTok as a search engine. But again, you're getting your answers on TikTok when you're kind of making those searches already. But where you in comparison, when you're making those searches on Google, you're getting a list that you can then pick from to then go through and actually make a decision from. So again, there's so many different nuances within that consumer journey that I think, although, Gen Z are certainly using it, and I think TikTok will, become a much larger piece in terms of that search side of things. I think certainly from like a profitability perspective, because it's such a platform that's so difficult to get people off and onto a site, I think Google's still going to have its place when you're trying to get people to go and convert, essentially.
Definitely. I think that's a big piece that we always talk about is having, distributing your media spend across multiple channels, not just relying on one, especially as you're reaching some level of scale as well. Maybe in the early days, you are focusing on Google plus retargeting, but as you scale and need to reach new users, diversify sort of media, that's where sort of really TikTok does come into play, I think. But it'd be interesting, like you said, as it develops itself as a search platform and that Gen Z audience age up, have more disposable income. Is that going to be really sticky and, more media, I guess, budget is going to move over there as well. And one thing I know, going back to earlier as well, you touched on very, very briefly about cookies, measurement, attribution, always a favorite topic that everyone asks of. Not only clients, but, when we're speaking to prospective new clients as well, they're always asking, about attribution and our thoughts there and what last click ROAS, and is that possible to still achieve their targets on Facebook and the likes?
Yeah.
How is that? How do you see that changing? Obviously, there's some big things that are happening this year.
Yeah, I think, the sunsetting of third-party cookies is kind of the big major change that's going to have an impact on everything. I think, like I mentioned earlier, the way that third-party cookies at the moment drive, an element of, audience performance for the pixel in the way that people get categorized based on their browser behavior. Things like that aren't going to be as powerful anymore because there's just not going to be that visibility. But I think certainly with the conversations that we've had with Meta, around the future of it, obviously Conversions API has kind of come in as that, mid ground really to try and kind of shore up any gaps that we've got, certainly where we lost the tracking when iOS 14 came out. I think potentially what we're going to see is less of an onus on Facebook and the pixel itself, and more of an onus on actually tracking conversions through server-side integration with Conversions API, because there's much more direct conversion tracking that you can get in place there. And I think, I mean, it's interesting to see where it goes, because we still don't really have like as solid as a solution as we've had over the last few years, with cookies in place. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, all of the media owners themselves are kind of bringing out all sorts of new features and kind of announcing all sorts of different things, which, you know, and there might be a further development down the line that we see come out that might take over from the direction that we're going.
I think there will be, you know, all these, they have the most, these platforms, Meta, Google, etc., have ultimately the most cash available to them. They can hire the best engineers in the world, and that's what they go and do, and pay a lot for these people. So you'd hope with the best engineers in the world that there are some sort of solutions that are going to be developed and brought out to market ASAP, because I think it's going to be a chase towards that, because whoever is able to sort of nail that next step first, ultimately more spend is going to go out there, because brands can measure that activity better. And that's ultimately what a lot of brands are searching for at the moment, is those attribution tools. How effective is my media spend, and arguments between which platform or which agency is driving the most revenue and where they should then allocate that budget. Always having those types of conversations. Is there anything else that you think that we should be keeping an eye out for?
To be honest with you, I think we've covered everything, really. Those are the main things that I think are definitely the forefront of my mind, of the things that are going to, you know, be changing and having an impact over the next couple of years, certainly within the, you know, the paid social space. But I mean, it'll be always interesting to see what develops, because how quickly this industry moves and how quickly things change. You know, the next time we do a podcast, there could be something new that comes out that we can talk about. But yeah,
and hopefully you still have a job.
Hopefully I still have a job. Yeah.
No, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, no matter what. In terms of the AI and things, landscape changing as a whole, it's going to be, fascinating. I think this could even be a topic that we revisit sort of every year or every 6 months.
Yeah,
maybe even more than that as well. But thank you very much for everyone watching today. It's been a pleasure, and make sure to subscribe on YouTube. You know, obviously we put these videos and podcasts out for free, so all we'd like from you is to give us a little subscribe and hit the like button. But if you're listening to Spotify or any of the audio platforms, please do follow along. We're putting 2 of these out every single week across paid social, organic, creative, influencer, and the like. So please follow along. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thanks guys. See you soon.